Here we go. Welcome, Average Joe Nation from around the globe. Props to you for staying up to date and keeping in the know. With fantasy football, man, very soon you'll reign. The knowledge that these three guys have, man, it is insane. Yeah, fantasy football talk hateful eight, they wear the crown. Hold it down, Pickle, Blackburn, and Trimboli, hold it down. Pulling up to the recording studio, we're getting loud. Getting ready, headphones on, red light, go, break it down.
Welcome back to the Hateful Eight Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Pickle, and with me as always, Blackburn.
That's right.
A.k.a. the Proctor. And to my right, back again this week, Trimboli.
Back in the saddle.
Okay.
I don't know.
All right. I don't know where you're going with that.
Trotting along.
Just trotting along. Just out for a Sunday strut. Anyways.
On a Thursday.
Anyways, you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and on YouTube. Obviously, if you're on YouTube or DATV, you'll be able to see the visual, the ticker at the bottom to see the different handles. If you're on the podcast side, you'll be able to check those out on the links in the description as well. So, main segment today is going to be talking about the some of the disappointments fantasy player-wise from 2018 and maybe the outlook of what they're going to be doing for 2019. So, it's going to be interesting to kind of talk through and kind of see the different perspectives of what we think where these guys maybe ended up this year and maybe why they were so disappointing for 2018 So
The guys that just really crapped all over your draft last year.
Yeah. Thanks, Gronk.
right.
Yeah.
So
Appreciate that.
before we get into the show, we want to give Matt Dutz the winner of the listener March Madness bracket challenge. So his stuff will be out to him probably this week or this weekend. It'll be delivered out to him. So.
Congrats, man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's good stuff.
So I already emailed him. He was really happy to be the winner. He said, I really thought it was a long shot when two of the other guys had been sitting there for a while. So we were kind of like, okay. And he was like, I have a long shot. He goes, I need a couple teams to win. And he goes, and they did. So I was like, well, congrats. You got your stuff. You got your body armor gears will be on his way. So we appreciate him participating, though, this year with us. So, all right. Let's get into the first segment today, fantasy news and notes.
Fantasy news and notes.
Fantasy news and notes presented by Sleeper. If you're wanting to stay up to date on all things fantasy news, then make sure you download the app Sleeper, whether that's on iOS or Android. They have it available for both. They also have the website sleeper.com. So, let's get into the first news of the day. Sterling Shepard finalizing on an extension with the Giants, 4-year, $41 million. So, yay, nay, fantasy relevance.
I mean, I think he's going to have fantasy relevance. Obviously, they need someone to throw the ball to. So
I think they're going to draft one of them big receivers. They got 2 first-round draft picks. I think they'll go defense with one, and with the other one in the first round, I think they're going to go receiver, and I think they're going to get a day 2 quarterback.
Yeah.
I just wanted to see what they do with Golden Tate.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I don't get. Sterling Shepard's your slot guy, but that's where Golden Tate should line up.
Unless they're going to have Shepard be the over the top.
That's the only thing I can think of is they're going
He
to
can do it.
That would scare me, though, with his fantasy value.
Yes, because that's literally boom or bust, big time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It changes his fantasy perspective to me, putting him in maybe at that bottom of the wide receiver 2 group, top wide receiver 3 group, to now switching to maybe the wide receiver 3, back of the 3 to beginning of the 4. I think it drops into maybe a whole different tier just because I just don't know if he's got enough athletic ability and talent to be a true 1.
Well,
That's my concern.
I think he does. I just think that Eli doesn't really throw deep balls like that.
I agree. That's what I was worried about.
If he was going to do that and be that guy, or they want him to be that guy, I look for Evan Ingram's stock to go up a lot.
I would say I think Evan Ingram's still the biggest winner out of the OBJ trade, honestly. Even if they bring in one of these guys from the deep wide receiver class, I still think it's going to take them time to kind of get acclimated and adjusted.
Yeah.
So I still think he's going to be the biggest successor outside of obviously Saquon's still going to be the main
Check
focal
down
point.
King.
Right.
Yeah.
I feel like that should be like his handle on Twitter, check down King.
It was last year for sure.
Yeah.
So, all right. Philip Lindsay, wrist injury. He says he's not putting in a timetable on his recovery, though. Any concerns, any questions about will this be an issue for him once season starts?
No. I seen a thing yesterday that says they want to get Royce Freeman the ball more. I still think Lindsay's the one to have.
Yeah, my only concern would be that if he's not 100% coming into camp, the talk of Royce Freeman getting extra carries, that does scare me for his fantasy outlook for Lindsey.
Yeah, and I mean, it's still the uncertainty. I mean, Flacco is the quarterback. He's not much of a – I mean, he throws the ball more to the running back. So I think that's kind of going to be the who's going to be able to do pass protection best and who's going to be able to be the one that catches the ball out of the backfield best. And at this point, I still think it's Phillip Lindsay. It's just a matter of how healthy his wrist is. Yeah. If it re-aggravates, if it's an issue once the season starts, he gets hit a certain way or he lands on it awkward and it just re-aggravates the issue. I mean, it's almost kind of like an ankle injury. In theory, it's something that can be re-aggravated at any point, in my opinion. So it's just a matter of.
Well, we still got 5 months to go.
Right.
That's what I'm hoping, that he has no setbacks, no issues, and he can be the clear-cut guy. Because I think if there's any setbacks or if he's having any issues in the offseason, practice purposes, on the field wise, I think then that gives the opportunity for Royce Freeman to kind of slide in and potentially make it a dual back setup.
I think it's going to be a committee.
You still think so?
I think you saw that with Lindsey last year. He couldn't hold up when it was his show. So if they bring in a little bit more Royce Freeman than last year, it gives Lindsey a chance to maybe get through the whole season. He's still going to be a vocal point and probably the better back in that backfield. Right. I just think you're going to see a healthy,
especially in PPR formats.
Yeah.
I was say, do you think that the backfield, it's more so the play style of what Denver does? Because I mean, you think about it, even back to like when you had C.J. Anderson as well, and I mean you had Ronnie Hillman and you had some of these other guys. I mean, it was truly a dual back even then. Even though you had still one like set guy, but anytime one of those backs really got the key, like where they were getting the majority of the snaps, like more than just 50-50 or whatever, I just never felt like either one of them really excelled. I just feel like they want to implement this dual back setup, even though it's a different coaching staff.
Yeah, they want to run to set up the pass. So in doing that, that's when I think you're going to have a bunch of running backs come in and out.
Maybe. We'll see. Alabama running back Josh Jacobs visited Baltimore today. I think this is a question mark around the backfield still. That's got Gus Edwards, Mark Ingram, and now Josh Jacobs. To me, they're all three kind of the same guy. It's like you're not bringing any type of pass catching back.
Right.
That's what they're like a Duke Johnson. That's what they're dedicated to doing. You're bringing in a younger version essentially of Mark Ingram, and you've got a younger version of Mark Ingram already in Gus Edwards. So it's like, what are you guys doing backfield wise? Are you just going to be it kind of continues to go towards the fact that I think this is going to be a heavy run offense with Lamar Jackson being one of the main guys. I don't think they're trying to make this a throwing offense at all.
Well, he can't. I mean, no offense, but I don't think he's the best thrower anyway.
No, I don't either. That's why I feel like I thought they were going to try to take the next step with him and making him more of a passing threat. And I just feel like
you can't make something that's not there.
Well,
he's a running quarterback. That's what he does.
True. I mean, that's a good point. So, and then Drew Lock visited Denver on Sunday, this past Sunday, and on Monday as well. They seem to think. I mean, from everything I'm hearing, John Elway thinks it's like a young version of him, essentially, is what I'm hearing.
Well, he's got a huge arm, and Elway loves the guys with the huge arm.
Listen, I want Elway to hit one out of the park for a change because his picks on quarterbacks have not been stellar.
Super hot garbage.
Yeah.
This is true. It's been really bad.
It's almost like you don't want to be on his radar.
He's like, you don't want nobody to pass him up.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe. We'll see. And then Dwayne Haskins.
He tanks his franchise.
Nobody's passing me up.
Right. Dwayne Haskins is meeting with both the Broncos and Redskins this week. Just another quarterback that's going to kind of doing the carousel of the different teams that need a young quarterback.
Well, they're all doing their due diligence on all these quarterbacks, these first, second round projected guys. So,
do you guys think he's got the potential to be that guy that falls?
Haskins?
I just got this
if the Giants
feeling
don't
right
pick
now.
him with their first round pick, he could slide.
I was going to say, I think if he doesn't, because everything I'm hearing, it does sound like Drew Lock is like the guy for Denver if he's available there. And I don't think I've heard anybody trying to talk about moving up to draft him. So I just think that Dwayne Haskins, if he's not drafted by the Giants, would not be shocked if he's drafted by the Redskins, depending on what the Josh Rosen Josh Rosen situation is.
The kid out of Duke,
Daniel Jones.
Thank you. He's getting a lot of hype right now.
Yeah, he's moving up pretty quick in a lot of people's draft boards.
We'll see. It's a lot of question marks still, but and then signings, the big one from yesterday, Austin Seferian-Jenkins has signed a 1-year contract with the New England Patriots.
Okay, now after this happened yesterday, Twitter went nuts, okay? And there was actually a poll on there that said, who's going to have the better season, ASJ or Travis Kelce? Who's going to be the tight end one?
I love these
I just
knee-jerk
said,
reactions.
just pump the brakes, okay?
Relax a little bit there, please.
He's definitely going to have more value than he's had probably
Absolutely.
in his career.
But I think he's going to be, like we talked about in last week's show, the tight ends. He's going to be around that Vance McDonald, Kyle Rudolph tier.
Yeah.
Not tight end 1.
Now, I will tell you, we had a question posted to us today, actually, from it's KYCO88 on Sleeper, and he asked, I have ASJ in a tight end premium league, looking to trade him before the draft. How do you value him in New England?
Well, I think you got to sell the hype.
Right.
If you're looking to
depends
move,
on what you
sell
can get.
New England.
Yeah, it depends on what you can get from
Right.
him.
Well, here's the kicker. He says he's already in his rookie draft.
Okay.
He's got the 104, 109, and 110. So he's got 3 first-round draft picks. And he already has, in a tight end premium league, let's see, he says he's got Ingram, Goddard, and Vance already.
Ooh. Yeah, trade him.
So
Yeah.
that's why I think if you've got him, especially in a tight end premium league, and this is the highest his value is going to be right now, because let's just say New England still goes out and drafts Hawkinson's Fant or Irv Smith or the guy from Kentucky late. I'm just saying then that takes ASJ out of the equation as to the most value that he's currently got.
Well, you said it. He's got Ingram and Vance McDonald already, plus Goddard.
Right, who's a future guy.
Go ahead and trade ASJ.
And you got 3 first-round picks, so you could technically
Right.
still go get one of these top young tight ends after you see where they've gone to. I would trade him. I'd basically put it out there to your league, take the highest bidder, whoever it is, send trade, and move on.
I'd try to get a high-profile guy. I would try to package that 110 plus ASJ and go get you a premier player.
Yeah, whatever you're low on, whether it's like a running back, maybe a wide receiver that your team's hurting on, maybe try to get one of those upper echelon guys.
Yeah, because it's hard to to make those decisions without seeing the rest of that team.
Right.
But back to the question, I'd sell the hype while you can.
Yeah, because nobody's going to give you much for just the tight end. But if you threw that 110 pick with the tight end, with all the hype that he's going to be getting, you get a pretty good player in return.
Do it now while it's like
Exactly.
it's the thing of the moment. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, that's what I kind of posed to him before. I said we'll talk about it on the show, obviously, and listen in for that. But I said obviously the initial reaction is if you've got all that depth on a tight end premium and you've got 3 first-round picks, I told him one idea was to package one of those first-round picks and ASJ for maybe a premium player that you need at a running back or wide receiver spot.
Exactly.
Or you can trade him straight up for another maybe late first or another early second-round pick in this year's draft and kind of just go with it. So before we get into the final segment of today's show, I do want to do a review. We had a 5-star review come in from, let's see, who was it from? It's from Iowa 211 on Apple. It says 8-star podcast is what it's titled. It says a great group
Good
of
start.
guys.
Good
Right.
start. Solid.
We got
Right.
3 extras. That's
Right.
awesome.
Extra credit.
Math.
That's like A++++.
So we each get an extra star then?
We do. A great group of guys talking fantasy fun facts and stats to help you win your league. Thanks for making my day more enjoyable and more confident each episode.
Oh, you're welcome.
You know what? I love that. I want to be accurate and I want to be good, but the best thing is if we're enjoyable.
Right.
Like,
Nobody wants to sit there and
yeah.
listen to guys who are not fun to talk or listen to.
Yeah. That's why I try to listen to you a little bit less.
It didn't.
Right. I mean, I think it kind of goes back to the general concept that we want you guys to feel like you're at the table,
Yeah.
like the table right here with us. Even though, you're probably watching this or listening to it, we want you to feel like you're here with us discussing and talking. Because if not, you're just listening to 3 guys talk about their own personal opinions.
Right.
So that's the biggest concept I feel like we try to implement for you guys, the listeners or the viewers. So
This table may look small, but there's plenty of room here.
plenty of room at the table. It's like Thanksgiving. Why don't I
That
just
was deep.
That was metaphorical. For whatever reason, when I said Thanksgiving, I always remember the
Turducket?
No, your social media post every year on Facebook and Twitter, and it's this is me on Thanksgiving Day, and it's the Ultimate
it's
Warrior
Goldberg.
running.
Oh, no, it's Goldberg.
Is it
yeah.
Goldberg?
When he busts out through security and he's all walking to the ring. That is me every Thanksgiving. I tell my mom every year, that's going to be me at 2 o'clock.
Right, man. Sidebar, but that was good.
And immediately passed out.
Right.
At 4.
Food
At
coma.
4 o'clock. All right, let's get into the final segment today. It's called 10 Things I Hate About You.
I hate you so much it makes me sick. It even makes me rhyme.
This guy sucks.
Great movie, by the way.
Both of them.
Yeah.
Love
So, Anyway, so this is presented by Trophy Smack. Trophy Smack has over 1,000 unique fantasy trophy combinations. They also have fantasy rings and fantasy belts that just got recently added, obviously, a couple weeks ago. So they're continuing to add that, and they're also trying to figure out more things that they can add to the arsenal of fantasy trophies, rings, belts. They want as much stuff as they can add, so that way your league's fully stocked to the brim with whatever fantasy smack talk that you can. So
I'm sorry, but I know I harp on that dang belt. But I'm telling you, if you could walk into your draft every year wearing that thing,
you're like
awesome.
Goldberg,
Like
walking
Goldberg.
in Thanksgiving.
See, sling it over your shoulder.
Right. No one's gonna judge you. I mean, they
be the boss.
may dislike you, but
I don't care. That's the whole point
they
of
got to
it.
respect. Anyway, so TrophySmack.com is where it's at, and we'll just kind of throw in there right now, or before we get too far into it, if you are pre-ordering the 2019 draft loadout, they are actually throwing in a 50% discount to you guys, the listeners that are signing up for that, and they are going to give away one fantasy championship ring. So the 50% off will be a promo code that you guys will get once you sign up for the Average Joe Nation draft loadout for this year, and then your name will be entered into an actual winning a free ring as well. So
Sweet.
They
Can't beat that.
So for $8, you get a draft loadout,
Right.
50% promo for a ring guaranteed, and
Right.
a chance to get a free ring.
Right. Can't beat that.
Right. Why are we all not just signing up?
Right.
We should be flooding.
So we've already got a handful of people who are already entered into the drawing and already got a 50% off promo code. So it's gonna be it's a good combination for them as well as for us. So now the big players that we're gonna try to talk about, we're gonna go by positional players. The first group is gonna be the quarterbacks.
Of course.
So quarterbacks, you got Tom Brady. He was being for ADP purposes, he was being drafted around quarterback 3.
Yeah.
So top 3 quarterback, and he finished as the quarterback 11. So right on the outskirts of that quarterback 1 tier or group, I guess you should say. Horrible.
Yeah. And it's also so he was at his draft spot was in the 5th round. So for a guy like that, you're expecting the top 5 finish.
Well, yeah.
To invest that early in a quarterback. That's why I don't.
Well, I think the
So-
lack of downfield production really hurt Tom Brady. They did a lot of check downs to like James White, and it was just White and Edelman the last half of the year
Right.
until Michelle came back, and then they
Right.
went run heavy.
Yeah, that was what my notes were saying, was that they relied really on the run game this year, more so than they've done in the past. And then while Edelman was out, the wide receivers never really stepped up. Hogan and them, they just
Hogan kind of
disappointed.
disappeared. Yeah, it's like Thanos snapped his fingers and Hogan was in that mix.
I don't
It
feel
disappeared. Yeah.
So I just think, and I will say for me at least, for 2019 outlook for Tom Brady specifically, I think we're looking at probably about the same. We're looking at that back half of the quarterback 1 perspective, honestly.
Yeah.
I just don't think that we're
ASJ
seeing
is
any
not
different.
saving the day.
Well, he's slowly throwing more interceptions as he gets older and his career goes on. And with that, if you're not throwing 30-plus touchdowns or getting any kind of rushing yards, you're going to be in the lower half.
Well, let's face it, Father
or
Time
outside of 10.
is creeping up. Okay?
Yeah.
And that offensive line, he got hit a lot last year than what he has been in previous years. They keep losing O-linemen every year.
Well, they just let him go. They don't invest in him, and like Solder, they didn't reinvest in him. They let him go.
They lost 2 of them this year, 2
Right.
tackles.
Yeah, but you know what? When they don't, New England doesn't sign a guy to the offensive line, they normally go somewhere and they're normally terrible. I mean, Solder was not been good over there at the Giants.
Yeah, I mean, I get that.
he's better than
but-
what they had, but
Yeah.
I think it's their offensive line coach who really coaches these guys up. So
I don't know. I just think that we're just continue. I think this is kind of, we're going to see a slow version of Peyton Manning, that kind of like slow deterioration of their overall gameplay, and eventually, hopefully, Brady gets out before the complete like destruction that we saw with Peyton Manning that last year, where it was just awful.
Even though he finished QB 11, he still got that ring.
He did.
well, that's what I was going to say. It's not fantasy. It's not the fantasy offense you want, but
Right.
on the field, I mean, they're good.
Yeah. So I don't know. I just think we're just seeing a trend the same way.
Yeah,
Brady's just going to continue to tick backwards.
Yeah, for fantasy purposes, I don't think he's going to be top 5, top 8 guy.
No.
So, all right, next quarterback, Cam Newton. He was being drafted as the quarterback 5, finished as the final quarterback 1, as the quarterback 12 for the year. So, what's your guys' thoughts on why he, and I guess, was the issue for 2018?
With no Olsen, the wide receivers really didn't offer anything. I just think it was a rough year for him. I mean, the injury doesn't help.
Right.
But he has to have rushing touchdowns. He had 4 last year.
Yep.
And that's the lowest in his career, or second lowest in his career. That's not going to get it done.
Well, it was the McCaffrey show last year.
Oh, yeah, most
Again,
definitely.
just like I said about Tom Brady, Cam Newton's only going to get you mid-20s touchdowns. He's going to throw double-digit interceptions. So he has to have the running game give him something else in order for him to be projected into the top 5.
And now this year, they lost Devin Funchess, which is a huge weapon. Greg Olson's gone. They got Ian Thomas. I think that's what his name is.
Yeah, out of Indiana.
But it's basically Curtis Samuel, McCaffrey,
And
DJ Moore. Yeah.
I think Moore will have a better year this year.
I think he will have a better year, but I think they need to go get another big receiver to help Cam out.
I was going to say, I think they need somebody. They need
a goal line threat.
Right. They need a big –
CMC can't be it.
No, and I think Ian Thomas, I think they're going to try to make him a little bit more of like a hybrid wide receiver, kind of like what they wanted to do with Funchess. But I don't know. I just feel like I agree with you, Blackburn. I just think that they need to go get another solid big wide receiver, and there's tons of them in this draft.
Yeah.
So take your pick, whoever that may be. So
I don't know why, man, but I just like DK Metcalf. I know he's sliding right now in a lot of people's drafts, but I think he's going to be a beast.
I think people people look at his tape, they're like, oh, he's like a one-trick pony. He only runs like two routes. Well, if you literally take him and put him in the offense of, like, we'll just say the Panthers, and you literally make him nothing but the red zone threat, that's his bread and butter, and he can.
So he's
score.
a tight end then?
No, but they said the same thing about Des Bryant. Des Bryant was dominant for a few years.
Right.
Yeah. With him, I'm just scared because his game speed is not as fast as you want it to be.
Right. I think my concerns, I like overall what we're looking at with DK Metcalf. I like him as a potential wide receiver on a team for the future and a red zone threat. My only concern is the injuries, because that's what I didn't realize he had so many injuries in his short stint there at Ole Miss. If he can stay healthy, I think he can be a productive wide receiver. It's just that's the biggest concern for me. It's not so much his athletic ability, because I mean, let's be honest, his genetics are pretty have ran through the NFL. So
unreal.
Well, he could be their red zone threat. They got over the top guys with Samuel and DJ Moore. He could be there when they get down in the red zone area. That could be the big guy that they need.
Right.
But yeah, you're right. Cam needs rushing touchdowns to be considered in this top 5 group.
Right. Well, here's the thing. In his passing attempts this year, it was the second lowest of his career. So he wasn't throwing the ball more, but he
was hurt, I think.
Right,
Yeah.
but I'm saying that when I was saying about being a low passing attempt, then you've got to make that up with the rushing attempts or the rushing touchdowns.
His rushing attempts were the second lowest.
Right.
I piggybacked off what you already put.
So that's my concern is, and like you had pointed out, CMC was the offense essentially, and the wide receivers never really caught on. They just struggled, I mean, throughout the year. And then the hurt shoulder, and I think it was like week 8 is when we started seeing him like coming up in the injury reports. He's not practicing or he's limited, and then finally they just shut him down towards the back end of the season once they knew they were not making a playoff run.
Right.
So I just think that for 2019, I think we need to see more rushing attempts, more rushing touchdowns essentially.
Problem is he's getting older.
Right.
And
Do you really want your quarterback getting hit that much? I think that's where Carolina, when they took CMC, that was the idea, to give him some help, to relieve him rushing the ball as much, and now it's totally gone in the opposite direction.
Yeah, and I mean, there's been talks that they've brought in some of these young quarterbacks in this draft class. I mean, it's kind of flown under the radar, but they brought in a couple different guys to kind of see for future purposes. So, I mean, they might be the time clock might be getting ready to punch out for Cam Newton.
I could see Panthers maybe taking like a Will Greer.
That's who they've been kind of enjoying. I think his name's been the one that's been linked to it, so for sure. All right, now running backs, we'll transition into that. Jordan Howard's the first one we're going to talk about. Running back 12 for ADP purposes last year. Finishes the running back 20. When you're like, oh, well, that's not that big of a gap. Well, it is when he was so inconsistent.
Well, that and at preseason last year they said he's going to be our 3-down back.
Right.
Yeah.
He's going to be our bell cow guy, and then like within week 2 it was the Tariq Cohen show.
Well, they said that this offseason we've got we've got a role for Howard, and then shortly after, breaking news, he's traded to the Philadelphia Eagles for like a gas station bag of chips. So
I mean, the hype going into the draft last year was you're going to get a high-end 2, low-end 1, but he could project end up being right outside the top 5. We thought if he was all 3, I mean, if he did everything, all 3 downs and caught the ball.
Well, that's what they said, all 3 downs. His mocks, he was going mid-second round.
right. So
the problem is most of his damage is in the last 3 games of the year. He scored 4 touchdowns during then. It took him to week 14 to get to 100 yards rushing in one game. It's
almost like the Derrick Henry effect. It's like they forced the pass catching back set up to kind of move the ball down the field, and then once the weather kind of changed to the more like traditional cold weather where you're going to need a bulkier back, that's when you saw the most of Howard as well as Derrick Henry. But
I think him being in Philly now,
yeah,
that's going to really help him a lot.
yeah, I mean
They'll use him the right way.
yeah, I mean because he walks in. I mean I know that he's not got the offense experience with that playbook, but he walks in that door being the running back one in that backfield.
Clear cut.
Yeah. I mean, Smallwood as well as I just drew a blank. Sproles is potentially. I mean, there's no
Adams.
Adams is another one that they're talking about keeping.
But those are pass catching like running backs though.
Right.
It's going to be a split backfield there too, though.
Because they're going to want to try to save Wentz too. They don't have Foles to bail him out this year.
This is true. So I just think that when you were looking at last year for Howard, they split carries between him and Cohen, and I looked. Cohen had 46%, and you had Howard at 58%. So pretty close. And the biggest thing, I think, the biggest asterisk with the setup for Howard was he just never fit into Matt Nagy's offense. Never. He just wasn't the back that Matt Nagy wanted. And even though Matt Nagy was at the press conferences all preseason, like you said, he's a 3-down back, he's going to be our guy, and so on and so forth, they clearly realized through training camp he was not.
Well, he likes a running back that can catch the ball.
Yeah.
I'll tell you right now, 27 targets for the year, that goes to show you can't do that.
Yeah.
It's not that you struggle at it, you can't do it. 27 targets is nothing.
Right.
And he averaged just over 11 fantasy points a game, and that was saved because of
The final 4 weeks.
Right.
right.
Yeah.
He had 7 games out of his 16 that he played that were single digits. That's bad for a guy that was being drafted in that second round. That's horrible for PPR purposes specifically. So for 2019, you said that you think that he's the
I think he'll have a bounce back this year.
I was going to say, I think this is the year that you could potentially get him. I don't know exactly where his ADP is at the very moment, but I think he might be that guy that people are going to be shying away, and he's new offense. He had a bad year in 2018, and I think he could be one of those guys that you kind of get in maybe the 4th round that you feel comfortable maybe being your RB2, RB3, depending on how you draft.
If he's there in the 4th or 5th round, I'm jumping all over it.
I think it just comes down to what that offense, what their coach speak is.
I think he's going to finish right around where he did last year.
You think so?
You don't think he's going to finish in that top 15 maybe?
I think he could go plus or minus 2 or 3 either direction for me.
All right.
I just don't – Philadelphia, he's a one-trick pony. He's going to be the first guy out, but I don't think when they want to pass the ball, he's going to come out of the game.
Yeah, you're right.
I just think he is what he is.
But I think they're going to change their offense around to – they're going to be more run-heavy than what they have been.
I was going to say, what if they transitioned to more like power – not the power eye, but like when they get in the red zone and they take away the run of Wentz and they start implementing more so like either like short passes to Goddard or Ertz, or Jordan Howard in that red zone is like their go-to first option. Does that change your opinion?
Well, no, but when Philadelphia gets to the red zone, they put in the passing back because they want Ertz coming out. They want to hit him or they want to swing the ball. They don't go that power eye formation.
Well, I'm saying if they transitioned into maybe that now they got more.
If that was the game plan, but until we see it, to me it's –
Yeah.
Because I think that was what they were concerned about with Jay Ajayi. Because I just don't think they felt he was healthy enough to be kind of a bruiser guy that they wanted, which I think that's exactly what you get with Jordan Howard is between the tackle guy that can get you 3-4 yards on each carry.
I mean, I think it's great for their offense. Now, fantasy purposes, I just don't see a huge bump in his play.
I think it's better than what he would have had in the Chicago
Oh, absolutely,
offense.
yes.
Much better.
Much better than he's out of Chicago.
So, all right. And then to me, this guy is the bust of the year. Leonard Fournette.
Yeah, big time.
Gosh, that guy was so disappointing this year. Horrible. I mean,
he ruined some teams.
Hey, well, he was back into the first round, beginning of the second round pick.
Yeah, he was bad.
He was 108, so first round 8th pick.
Yeah.
And he finished as the running back 40 for everyone interested in knowing where he finished on the year.
40
burger. Just saying. Now, here's some key things that I found. Contract guarantees were removed at the end of last year.
Yeah,
Big thing.
Well, we all thought he was going to be traded.
Right.
And he still might be.
Still might.
Yeah.
They brought in Alfred Blue and Benny Cunningham. 2 big guys that are, to me, the same style as what you got in Leonard Fournette. They took T.J. Yeldon, who to me was kind of like a hybrid who could do the pass catching.
Well, Blue can do that too.
Blue can. I guess he would be maybe Yeldon, but you brought in Benny Cunningham as well. Why?
Well, you need depth. I don't know.
They could draft a running back in this class.
Neither one of those scare me for Fournette's future. So,
well, if they keep Fournette, then obviously he's the guy. But I look for him. They could trade him because they took those things out of his contract for a reason.
Yeah. So he missed 6 games for injury last year and 1 game for suspension after he punched a guy with a helmet on in Buffalo, which was, whatever. I mean, it makes sense. Punch a guy with a helmet on, barehanded.
Yeah. Well, Fournette last year.
Yeah.
They just seem to not. The other thing is for me is I just feel like towards the end of the year, post the injuries, and then the suspension, I just think they grew tired of his lack of performance on the field as well as his overall demeanor and attitude. It just sounded like they did not like the way he was carrying himself and kind of trying to gather people into his inner circle to kind of be against the rest of the team, whatever that may be.
I mean, it's like any team. They can put up with all the shenanigans off the field and in the locker room as long as you're producing on the field. When he stops producing on the field, which is what he was doing last year,
they grow
you
tired.
see what happens, yeah.
So, only saw 51% of the snaps as supposedly the bell cow in that offense. That's not what you want in what he should have been. Like in his rookie year, he was the guy. I mean, he was up there with the Zekes, with Gurley's and things like that to that concept. And then it just 51% of the snaps for your supposedly your bell cow guy.
Well, the whole Jacksonville team was a disappointment last year.
Just a smidge.
He's injury prone too, so
he is
that's
very
gonna
much
eat into those snaps.
Yep.
So
I would say that's my other concern now going forward with him and figuring out what you're going to get out of Leonard Fournette. So what's your guys' what's your thoughts on his 2019 outlook? If we're not throwing the what ifs, we'll just say if he is on the Jacksonville Jaguars offense this year, what do you have as his outlook?
Well, you can't do worse than 40, probably. I mean,
yeah, I think he's better than
Probably
40.
true.
I don't know. I'm
Give or
still.
take a few.
I'm not totally throwing in the white flag on Fournette here.
No.
I have.
His stats, if you average out what he would have been if he was healthy all year, he was receiving a ton of targets in the passing game, which was something we needed. You needed to see improvement by. He would have finished in the top 20 in that, and that's pretty good for a guy that didn't get any. It doesn't normally. It's not known for that at least.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not going to be a 40. He's going to be a.
Could be an RB2 at the end of the year, and I think the addition of Foles will actually help.
I do too.
I'm hoping so, but I just feel like he's continued to trend downward instead of actually like where Gurley had a good first year, then had a bad second year, then he actually bounced back, but now he's kind of in a lingering spot as well. But for injury purposes, I think it goes back to the SEC concept where these guys run through like the gauntlet in the SEC for running backs, and you kind of see a lot of them break down within the first 4 years of their career. I mean, you really think about it.
I will say for Fournette, though, if you're a wide receiver heavy early in the draft, he could be a sneaky grab here.
Mm-hmm.
You're taking a risk, but I mean,
he's
got a chance for a top back here that's going to be drafted in the RB2 range. So
yeah, it'll probably be a fourth, fifth round.
I think.
Maybe third, back end, third, fourth.
I would say I think his ADP is like right now is that back end of the third, beginning of the fourth right now.
So if think about it, if you got him in the 4th round and you went wide receiver, now you need to come back with 2 running backs.
Right, it'd be a perfect guy.
Oh, that'd be awesome
for the third,
fourth,
sure,
or 4th, yeah.
Yeah,
most definitely. And then another running back. The last one we got is Alex Collins, running back 17, an ADP last year draft wise, and then finishes the running back 43. So right around where Leonard Fournette was at. Now
that whole backfield in Baltimore was just a mess.
They never settled on one guy.
Now that was a true committee, and then when Lamar Jackson came in, he took a lot of the rushing snaps as well.
Yeah, because I went and looked at their snap count for the year. Gus Edwards with 36% of the snaps, Collins for 41% of the snaps, and Buck Allen 35%. So that's literally, like you said, the epitome of what a running back committee is. There was no true guy.
Plus Jackson.
And Jackson and his rushing attempts, I didn't even put that, but that's ridiculous.
Anymore, you just don't want one Baltimore running back.
Well, yeah, it's the same thing this year.
Yeah.
They got Mark Ingram. They got Edwards still there. I don't think – is Buck Allen still – I don't think he's there, is he?
I haven't seen him on the depth chart. I know for sure it's Gus Edwards. They didn't bring back –
they're looking at rookie running backs, and they still got Lamar Jackson who runs. So.
And
they're going to have a team of all running backs, and that's
basically.
Because Lamar Jackson is a running back.
Essentially.
So 2000, if anyone has forgotten, Alex Collins currently is not on anybody's team.
He's not going to be on anyone's team.
He was released shortly after he was pulled over for the drug and gun charges that he had. Apparently, he had those in his car. So he's currently not on an NFL team, and I don't know at what point if anyone's going to give him another chance. He might be suspended whenever he comes back to a team. There's no rush to put him on a suspension list right now because.
I think he's going to be your 4th-round pick. I can feel it.
I'm just saying he could have played in the AAF, but that's right. They don't have a league anymore.
There is the XFL, though. It's coming. Just ask Vince. 2020.
Hey, the AAF went away just like Alex Collins' chances at next year's playing.
All right, let's transition into the wide receivers. Some big names here.
The prima donnas.
The prima donnas. The first one out the gate, Odell Beckham Jr. So, I lost what his ADP was.
Probably the biggest
112
diva as it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Besides the recent Antonio Brown antics.
yeah, he was the wide receiver 3 in ADP purposes. Finished as the wide receiver 16. Only played 12 games though.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing with him, I think, is his injuries.
Well, the injuries played a role. The offensive line, like we talked about earlier, was terrible. Eli didn't have time to let the wide receivers actually run their routes, hence why Saquon Barkley was the check down master.
When you get sacked 47 times, it's hard to
trust
anything.
Yeah, you just can't just drop back 3 step and just throw it up to OBJ and expect him to catch everything.
Yeah. I just think then, obviously, as we talked about, the check down was just the main offense.
That's all he had time for.
Right. So
this year, yes, he will improve. I think going to the Browns, there's so many weapons there. They're not going to be able to double team everybody. So I don't know. You basically pick your poison there.
Right. And I still think OBJ, even in a double team situation, I still like him over some wide receivers in single coverage. So
he's just
I'm
so
just
athletic.
Well, OBJ only in 12 games still got you 1,000 yards.
Sure.
He's just on the Browns. You're gonna have to see touchdowns.
Exactly.
And we kind of want to preface for and you're like, oh, wide receiver 16, that's not bad. No, it's not bad, but where you were drafting him and the draft capital that you invested in him, I mean, he was a first-round draft pick.
Right. Minus the year he didn't play all year. He's been a top 6, 7 receiver every year.
So 16 is, you're like, oh my gosh, that's bad. Yeah. Well, yes, but it's a disappointment more so just because what you got out of him.
Yeah, the draft capital where you drafted him at vice what you got in return.
And really, if he wouldn't have gotten hurt, you would have been okay.
Oh, yeah. So my question is the injuries that he's had throughout his short career now in the NFL, is that an issue for you going forward now that he's with the Browns, or do you think it's just an asterisk next to it?
I liked him in New York because there was other players there, but he was the guy. So volume was the thing. In Cleveland, I don't think he's going to see as much volume, but I still think he's going to be a top 10 receiver.
Yeah. I just think that maybe he might slide a little bit in drafts just because of the previous year's issue, as well as being on a new team, and there's just a lot of weapons. I know that's what – anytime I bring up a Browns player within, chat discussions, everyone's like, well, there's just so many mouths to feed. Who's going to be really the guy? Who's going to be the main guy? And who's going to do this? I mean, Baker's going to find a way to get his guy, OBJ, some touchdowns.
And if he doesn't, he's going to hear about it.
Right.
Yeah. And – listen, it's been a small sample size for Baker, but he seems to pass that ball around to everyone.
Yeah,
so, that's kind of what Njoku. I thought he was going to be a big benefactor last year, but Baker just spread it out to everyone, so he kind of took a back seat a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now he's going to probably, unfortunately, he might take up another back seat
just
because you got OBJ.
Yeah, he just got dropped down another tier.
Yeah, because OBJ is a red zone threat.
Sure.
So.
And he's a yard after the catch guy. I mean, he does a lot of damage after. I mean, you think about it. I mean, he catches one on a slant and he's gone. I mean,
Landry too. That's their bread and butter.
I mean, and you might see something where they rotate those guys in and out of the slot between them. I mean, just one on the outside, one in the slot, and then next series, switch them.
Yep. I mean, that offense has potential to be super scary.
Yeah. I mean, if you're a Browns fan,
I'm all in,
you are
for fantasy purposes. That's like gold,
right? And if you're just overall a Browns fan in general, you're definitely excited finally for the first time in a long time for a team that may be competitive for a playoff push.
I still say Pittsburgh's winning that division. All you Browns truthers out there need to back up the bread box for a minute, okay? Because Super Bowl's not happening this year.
Yeah,
they just need more time together.
Right.
So
yeah, chemistry.
True. All right. Speaking of within the division of the Browns, A.J. Green missed 7 games to injury last year. Now, he was being drafted as I think it was the wide receiver 8 and finished as the wide receiver 40. So
not good.
Him and Leonard Fournette was kind of the same. Wide receiver 8, wide receiver 40, running back 8, running back 40.
Offensive line in Cincinnati is pure trash.
It was horrible.
That hurts a lot.
Yeah. I'm thinking it's going to be a little better this year, but it was not good.
Right.
I mean, there's still talks of Andy Dalton not being the quarterback. There's talks that they may trade him away or cut him, and then there's talks that A.J. Green's name's been thrown out for trade potential.
Well, they said they were going to – I think it was out there, but then they said they want to extend him. He's our guy. I don't know.
Listen, I'm actually looking forward to next year. I think A.J. Green's going to be a steal. I mean,
He's still a beast.
Well, we're back to the offense like it was in 2013 under Gruden. That's what that style they want to run. And that offense, if you forget, had Marvin Jones, Sanu, A.J. Green with Giovanni Bernard, and Eifert, who played his first full season.
Right.
So if Eifert can come back play another full season, we have now Tyler Boyd, Mixon, and Green. Dalton put up his best numbers that year. So did A.J. Green. I think A.J. Green's going to be a big benefactor this year if they go back to that offense. That's the rumor, but
Well, we need to have some of that 2013 Jay Gruden magic in Washington this year because I haven't seen any of it.
No. It might have stayed in Cincinnati.
Right. It got lost in
transit.
Right.
The luggage never got picked up. The
sometimes the offensive coordinators never transition to that head coach spot.
Yeah. Look at Hugh Jackson.
Yeah. Who?
Right.
He done.
Hugh?
He done.
Hugh's that?
Anywho.
There it is. Doug Baldwin's the next wide receiver we're going to talk about. He was I think the biggest thing for him was just the injury coming into the year and flat out saying, I'm not 100%.
Yeah, when you tell everybody
I'm
you're
80% healthy.
Yeah, when you tell everybody you're 80% right off the rip, that's going to scare people
away. His
already.
agent just read that and just threw his phone against the dang wall.
Yeah,
screw this. How am I going to work with this?
No.
Idiot.
Wide receiver 13, ADP, and he finishes the wide receiver 49. I think the biggest thing that stood out to me is Tyler Lockett transitioned to become the wide receiver 1 in that offense.
Yeah, I mean.
The future of it.
Yeah.
He looked good last year.
Yeah, and the team was a run heavy.
Yep.
That was the biggest difference because we talked about it. We joked about it all off season last year that, you made the comment that Russell Wilson runs 10 yards the wrong way just so he can throw a 10-yard pass forward, which was it's the truth, though. His offensive line was poor, but they threw the ball a ton. They didn't run a whole lot, and then this year they went out and got a Rashad Penny, and they basically didn't even use him. It was all Chris Carson.
Yep, Carson and
Davis.
Yeah, Mike Davis.
Who's now moved to Chicago.
The Bears, yeah.
So my concern with Doug Baldwin is the fact that he had surgery this offseason, and what are we looking at going forward?
He has to be a volume guy, and if he's not healthy, it's just not going to be there. So
I would just say, would you say that he's kind of transitioned into that like PPR guy only kind of thing, like where that's where his most value is going to be because he's not really a home run threat, he's not really a touchdown heavy guy. It's just going to be the volume receptions.
I don't want to compare him to Crabtree, but that was what Crabtree's MO was, is that he was just a target monster. So
yeah, that year when
he was a PPR guy.
Him and Amari Cooper were there. Like Crabtree stole
they were
all
both
the
top
targets.
10 guys.
Yep. You didn't need double-digit touchdowns to get up there, but I think here with Baldwin, he's got to have touchdowns to really be relevant even.
Right. And now there's rumors of them potentially trading Russell Wilson.
Yeah, I've seen
that would hurt. That would hurt Baldwin's stock a ton.
Right, and I've heard because one of the things was they talked about trading him to, I think the Giants' name has been thrown in there, Arizona's name's been thrown in there as well, and they would then trade out their first-round pick, the number 1 pick, to Seattle. It's been talks about. There's all kinds of now you've got rumors flying all over the place of him, and we talked about the Pro Bowl. They had said that he was potentially going to the Giants.
Well, I can see the Giants now that they got an extra first-round pick, potentially sending that second first-round pick for Russell Wilson.
I don't know how you totally, overhaul your offense here around Russell Wilson, and all of a sudden you just want to let him go?
Yeah, well.
I get it's money.
I would say it's got to be the money factor, and he made it very clear he wants some sort of new contract by April 15th.
Well, and I think the CBA thing coming up where we're
has a lot to
projected
do
work
with that.
stoppage is going to have a huge – because they want the franchise tag taken off the board.
Yep.
I think that was what I heard as well, was the players want that not part of the contract.
Well, and Russell Wilson kind of pushing that he wanted a contract. I think he wants it in before that CBA happens too.
Well, you look at Seattle. They've overhauled that entire defense over the last 2 seasons. I think if they ended up trading Russell Wilson, it'd just be a complete rebuild. Everything.
Yeah. I just think Pete Carroll. I honestly think that, and it's nothing against Pete Carroll. He seems to find ways to make the most out of guys. He's almost kind of like a cheaper version of Belichick. He takes guys and he motivates them and he gets the max out of them, even though they may have been nothing at another team. But I agree with you. I just think that if we're getting rid of Russell Wilson, it's a complete start over. You're flipping a coin. You're starting over with one of these young guys.
I can't even name their backup quarterback.
Well, it would just be so abruptly to do it.
Right.
I think it's Brett Hundley, actually.
Cool.
Yeah. So they're going to have to go get a quarterback in this draft. So does that mean that now you've got?
Well, now you'd have Penny, Lockett, and the new quarterback to build around.
Well, that would make sense if they went and got a quarterback, kept Russell Wilson, and then they matured this guy into what they want him to be, and then let Wilson walk. It is what it is. But I just think they don't want to pay him, and they want to try to get whatever they can out of him.
I think that's why Jordan Howard left too. Yes, he didn't fit the offense, but this is the last year of his rookie contract. He's going to be wanting a payday, and Chicago's like, no.
We're not going to pay you, so we might as well get out while you can.
But I mean, Russell Wilson's to me, he's a bottom tier elite quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, he's kind of like one of those generational guys. I mean, he makes a lot out of nothing. I mean, how many years did he have like average to below average offensive line play, and he still was productive as could be?
And they were going to the Super Bowl.
Right.
I'll take him in Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Well, and we'll take Dalton in Washington. Let's just do a train move here.
Yeah. Everybody slide on down.
Well, first off, we don't pay anyone in Cincinnati. Come on.
Right. But anyways,
we overpay in Washington.
See
Albert Ainsworth.
True. All right, and then the final wide receiver that we're going to talk about, Larry Fitzgerald. It
wasn't his fault.
No, it wasn't his fault, but I guess that's kind of what I really didn't have a whole lot of like key notes that I really put. I just put offense in Arizona was horrible.
That's all that needs to be said.
His stats across the board were among the lowest of his career.
Their offensive line was worse than the Giants.
Right.
And actually Fitz and Baldwin kind of now. That's actually probably a better comp here. Fitz has always had the volume, the receptions, and a decent amount of touchdowns to make him a very viable wide receiver. The new quarterback comes in, the offense is terrible, and you see him just totally fall off the.
Well, the year Arians is last year when David Johnson blew up. I mean, he was doing pretty well.
Right.
He was a late round steal for fantasy purposes, but last year was just like a sinking ship, and I kind of felt bad for him that he was like
the only one.
Yeah, he was there watching it happen, and he couldn't do nothing.
Christian Kirk was injured at different points, and when he was on the field, he just didn't catch on as a rookie, which is understandable. But I just feel like everything was on. I know that people were like, well, David Johnson was there. Yeah, but that offense, when you say Arizona Cardinals, the first person that comes to your mind is Larry Fitzgerald. That team lives and dies by him. So I just feel like the team sunk. The coach was fired after 1 year. Josh Rosen is apparently a bust. He's a horrible quarterback.
Which he's not, by the way. I think he's going to catch on with somebody and tear it up.
I think there's an offensive line issue there.
Big time.
I know we harp on that this whole show, but that's really it.
Look, in order to have success, look at Andrew Luck. He's coming off that big injury. Didn't play football for a year.
Right.
Had the best offensive line in football, and he was top 4 quarterback.
They invested in it, and they made sure. And I just think that
all the good teams do.
Right. That's my point. Peyton Manning, great offensive line. Tom Brady, up until the last year or so, great offensive line. That's how you're successful.
Aaron Rodgers, when he was healthy and not getting hurt the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Which he did. They came out yesterday. He did play the whole season with a broken leg. Mike McCarthy knew about it too.
That's an attaboy right there.
Well, Mike McCarthy knew about it.
I don't know. That whole situation in Green Bay has got me concerned.
Hence why he's gone.
Right. I just think that to me, quarterbacks like Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, Brady has shown it, and some of the other guys that are in that elite group can make do with an average offensive line. But it just makes their game so much better. And I know it sounds cliche, but it's so much better of a game for them when they are protected, because then they have all the time in the world to basically just dink and dunk you down the field.
Which makes all the other players relevant. That's what it is.
So, with new Cliff Kingsbury coming in, offensive style, totally different. What's your thought on Larry Fitzgerald for 2019? Do you think he gets back to that wide receiver 2 group, so around that 16 to 18 group? Or
who's the quarterback?
Right. If Kyler Murray's the quarterback, I don't know, because he runs a lot.
He runs a lot, and he's a deep throw guy. He's not so much of a.
And Fitz is not going to be your deep threat guy.
If Kyler Murray comes in, I think David Johnson takes the biggest uptick.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Fitz is going to probably take a little backseat. Christian Kirk, though, I mean, he's an interesting one for me too on there. But yeah, I don't know if Fitz can do much better if it's Kyler Murray.
I'm gonna say low end wide receiver 2.
Okay. So in that 22 to 25 range, you're thinking? Because he's been consistent.
20 to 24 ish.
I would say because he's consistently in that 15 to he's been as high as top 10, and I think his average is about somewhere between 8 and 16 or 17. So
we'll see if that offense can score.
Well, I was gonna say I don't know if they did anything in for offensive line purposes in free agency.
Not yet, I don't believe so. So we'll see. And then the final disappointment for the season and as a whole would be Jimmy Graham. He is still on Green Bay. He is going to be back. They brought him back in to be the tight end again. But I just felt like even though there was so much hype of him and Rodgers were really connecting, and they had all these plays in practice and all the hype and everything, you're like, where's it at after a couple of weeks? I mean, he had like one good game.
Khalil Mack took Aaron Rodgers' legs out, and Aaron Rodgers wasn't the same all year.
Right.
But
Now,
Jimmy Graham's not been the same.
You're right.
Since he came in the league.
Oh, Father Time.
Yeah.
So, and I think we've all agreed, that everybody here agrees that Jimmy Graham, without touchdowns, is irrelevant. That's the biggest thing. He is touchdown or
And
bust.
we showed that this year,
Right.
this past year.
So I just want to point out, and I think where he is successful is in the red zone over his career. Last year, he was only targeted out of 100% of his targets, obviously. 12% of the time was in the red zone. That's horrible. That is awful.
Yeah, and only 2 touchdowns for the whole year. That's not good.
No.
And Green Bay did something they haven't done in a long time last year. They developed a run game,
Yeah, that's been surprising in that.
especially in the red zone area.
Yeah, and too bad they're not going to go back to just one guy, though.
Nope, they've already said committee time.
Yeah. But literally, think about this when you're going to draft Graham. His receptions, his targets, and yards have all gone down consistently every year.
It's touchdown or bust.
Yeah, it really is.
If you're one of those guys that don't really value the tight end spot, he'll be available late.
Yeah, I just feel bad for that offense, but I just think that when we're looking at, for 2019 purposes, for the offense that you've got there in Green Bay, it's
Devontae Adams or bust.
at this point, and I mean, whoever they decide to make whoever steps up to be that wide receiver 2 can be in that offense can be fantasy relevant. It's just
Well, a couple of the mock drafts I've seen from Kuiper and who's the other guy?
McShay.
Todd McShay. Haven't taken Metcalf or that Harry, big wide receivers.
Kill Harry. They got to take. I think that would be a good idea to take one of these guys to pair him up with Devontae Adams. Not against Allison or MVS or Quantimus around. Those guys are great complementary guys. I just think if you have the opportunity to get a once in a group, like a really deep wide receiver class like this, who's all like top tier guys, why not?
Right.
But
I don't know. I just still think there's the rookie wide receiver coming in. It's only a few handful guys that really make a huge fantasy impact their first year.
Right, but I mean, if you got a Geronimo Allison, you can put him in the slot, and then you can put the rookie wide receiver on the outside opposite of Adams and let him just kind of learn.
No, for them as a team as a whole, it's a great idea. I just meant for fantasy
purposes.
purposes, I'd rather still have Allison.
Yeah. I mean, he's established. He's made it very clear when he was healthy that he could be a viable option on a week-to-week basis.
Or I guess the other thing is, or MVS, depending on which one takes up that wide receiver 2 role.
Well, didn't they just re-sign Allison to a couple?
They did.
They've invested in him then.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's another thing that when you're looking at fantasy.
Follow the money.
I would say for fantasy purposes, you got to find those guys that they're investing in and they're bringing back and reassigning and everything. So. All right, we just want to tell you guys thanks for joining us on today's show. Whether if you're new to the podcast or if you're new to YouTube or DATV, welcome in. We appreciate you guys watching us and listening to us for the first time. If you're a returning guest, we appreciate you guys coming back and listening again.
Always.
And it's reference to the DATV side of things. We are on Sundays at 4 o'clock. And we are at 4 p.m. I should say specifically. Don't watch us at 4 a.m. We're not on. And then 10:30 on Fridays as well, PM wise. So
nice.
I thought you were going to say something.
No.
Oh, okay.
We're good.
You can head over to thehateful8ff.com where you can get some of our apparel. And now the articles are starting to slowly kind of creep back in. The recent one, Jeremy Goldman just kind of dropped one about the good and the bad and the ugly in reference to the Jordan Howard trade, who came out good in this one, who came out bad, and who is the ugly of the group. Did not, they kind of tanked, if you want to call it that, because of the trade. So it's definitely a good article to take into consideration for fantasy purposes, like we just talked about with Jordan Howard.
Well, Philly made out. They traded him for a 2020 fifth-round pick. That's nothing. This
is true. So, and then as well, if you head over to averagejonation.com, you can sign up for the 2019 draft loadout. It's pre-order right now, so it's at a lower rate than what it'll be once June 1st hits. And as we also talked about earlier in the show, Trophy Smack is throwing in a 50% off promo code to the ones that pre-order. And then you're entered into a giveaway for a free championship ring. I mean, you can't beat that. I don't know of anybody else that's just giving away free championship rings like that.
Not for an $8 value.
50% off.
Right. I mean, like you pointed out, you could potentially get the 50% off to buy yourself a league ring for this year or future and still win another one for the future this year. So
do it.
Yeah. So you can follow me on Twitter at jpickle_th8ff. At jblackburn_th8ff.
Do that.
And at ftrim_th8ff.
Hit me up.
So you can also follow the actual podcast handle at the Hateful 8ff. So Next week, it's going to be the mock draft, first one of the year. And we've got, as normal, or usually on our first mock draft, we have like a back behind closed doors bet that we don't reveal to you guys until we've also all agreed upon it. But last year was the princess dress outfit at the table, the Disney princess.
Which Blackburn rocked so graciously.
So this year we'll have to kind of figure out what we want to do. Maybe we'll throw it out to you guys, the listeners, and see which you guys, idea-wise, think is going to be best. So
I ripped open the dress.
Right. That still was the best outro, I think, of the year by far. Just watching him walk right up to the camera and just ripping. Yep. So, all right, that's all we got for today's show. We appreciate you guys tuning in, and we will see you guys next week.